Hi all, it's Marley and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you haven't visited my channel before, I basically discuss new topics every week with a psychological onslaught. So the other day I was sick and I needed to go to the doctor. And it was really cold and it was raining and I didn't want to walk in the weather conditions because I was already sick. So I phoned a taxi service and rang them. They said, perfect, taxi is booked. And so I waited. And usually the taxi service sends out a message to inform you that your taxi's been booked, and then they tell you, okay, your taxi has been dispatched, and then they let you know when your taxi is outside via text message. But on this day, I didn't receive any messages. So by the time I was expecting the taxi to be there, I went downstairs and I waited inside, and I waited for about 2 or 3 minutes, and I didn't hear anything. So I rang the taxi service again and I asked them very politely and calmly, sorry, but do you know whether my taxi has been dispatched and whether it is outside? Because I didn't receive any notification. And they said, no worries, we'll check for you. They checked out their system and said, okay, it has been dispatched and it is waiting outside. So I quickly went outside, and then I struggled for about a minute to get this guy's attention because he was listening to music and doing some work, or he was reading something. And eventually I got his attention and he opened the car door for me and I got in the car. And I sincerely apologized for making him wait, and I felt really bad for making him wait for me. And before I could say anything else, he started going off on me, and he said to me, well, you're being really inconsiderate because so many other people are wanting a taxi, and you're being inconsiderate because you made me wait and I could have taken someone else. And I was sitting there in the back seat, flabbergasted at this guy, and he was saying, if you hadn't pitched up in the next 2 minutes, I would have left, and then whose fault would that have been? It would have been your fault. And I was sitting there and I was so tired and I was sick and I was being attacked by my taxi driver. And I explained my situation to him, saying that I'm really sorry, sir, but I didn't get the text messages. And me being a foreigner and not from the UK, I don't exactly know how it works, and how I based my understanding of how it works is you get the texts saying that your taxi is booked and it has been dispatched and the taxi is outside. And if in the event you're a little bit late, they phone you, the taxi driver phones you and says, I'm outside. This guy just snapped at me. And when I explained my situation, that I didn't get the text, he said, well, next time use your common sense. And when he said that, I was just shocked. I was sitting in the back seat and I didn't know, I had this rush of emotions going through me because I'm sick and I'm tired, and this guy is just being extremely rude. And it was the worst 5 minutes of my life driving to the doctor. And the best part of all, after like he went off on me and attacked me, he was also saying that he says this to all of his customers, which I am very shocked at, that he still has a job. Then when after all of this, he tried and made to make small talk with me. And I was sitting there all I could think was I was so angry and I was so upset and I just wanted to get out, but I was going to be late for my doctor's appointment. I would have just told him to stop the car and I would have gotten out if it weren't for the fact that I would have been late for my doctor's appointment. And when I just remember when I stopped at the doctor's and got out of the car, I just said to myself, I am never using this taxi service again, and I will never recommend them to anyone. And that is just evidence that negative experience I had was so powerful that it decreased my brand loyalty to that taxi service company completely. I mean, like, I really don't want to use them ever again. I feel like if that's how they treat their customers, then why would you support that and make use of someone? I mean, it was an honest mistake. It wasn't as if I was even intentionally making the guy wait. And this all boils down to brand loyalty, which is the tendency of a consumer to purchase one brand's products or services above another. And I think in this aspect, Archer makes it really clear for us that with brand loyalty comes brand equity and trustworthiness of a brand. And it's important to consider these factors when looking at brand loyalty. An important aspect for me is customer service, because for any brand, that can really make or break a brand. How you treat your customers can really help build that relationship between the brand and the customer. The reasons that customer service is so important is that retention of customers is 5 times less expensive than acquiring new customers, because so much effort and costs, whether time and money, goes into acquiring new customers. But when you already have a customer base, those customers are easier to retain if you have good customer service and they have a reason to come back and purchase your brand or make use of your service. Existing customers are also more likely to come back and make another purchase from your brand or make use of your services again, because there is already a relationship between the customer and the brand, and there is some form of trust, and they know what to expect, so they are more likely to use your brand again. Good customer service also means less problems, which this taxi company clearly does not understand. And it also increases your public persona, which means that it strengthens your brand inevitably. We live in an era where word of mouth is a very, very powerful tool, and people rely on recommendations. And frankly, if someone is not treated as they expected they should be treated by a brand, then they are most likely to have a negative experience and then talk about that experience on social media or with friends. They will definitely voice their opinion and let everyone know that they had this really negative experience with a particular brand. Brands really have to realize that customers are individuals, and it is important to be treated like that. If a customer is not treated as an individual and they feel that their needs aren't met by the brand, whether it's quality, whether it's service, they will definitely not be loyal to that brand, and they will most likely switch to another brand that provides a similar product or service. If we look at my example of the taxi driver, the driver could have handled the situation in so many ways, which would have diffused it instead of throwing petrol on the fire. And he could have basically just changed the tone of his voice, the way he spoke to me, or how he phrased his, in this case, opinion. He could have just said, sorry, maybe next time it would be better if you would wait outside. He could have approached it so differently, but just the manner in which he addressed me and spoke to me put me off completely. And that is also evidence that it's really important to treat your customers right. And it is important that your employee's image aligns with the brand image, because your employees are inevitably the face of the brand when they are driving clients to and fro. And when a client receives a negative experience, they will immediately associate it with the brand. And that can have a very big negative impact on that brand's strength and image within the market. They can lose a lot of market share just by one rude taxi driver, for example. So when looking at your brand and thinking about how you want to position your brand in the market, it is important to consider not only the customer, because they are what drives your brand sales inevitably, but also the employees. It's really important that there's a holistic view of what the brand is and where they want to be positioned, and how the brand is perceived by the customer, by the employee, and by competitors. When a brand realizes that they have to treat their customers as people and individuals, it makes them so much stronger, because they acknowledge that they're dealing with someone that's influenced by environmental cues, social cues, emotions, habits, moods, and all these things have an effect on their decision-making process and how they're processing the information. There is definitely a correlation between how a brand treats its customers and how a brand is perceived, and then the loyalty the customers have to that brand. The better a brand treats its customers, the better the retention rate will be, and the more loyal they will be, and less likely to switch to other brands. And in this scenario of the taxi driver, it's interesting how the emotions and my mood and my current mood affected my opinion so much, because it doesn't matter whether this taxi service says that they are the cheapest and they have the best fare, and it doesn't matter that they provide a quality driving experience, or that they're always on time. What mattered was how I was treated, and that changed my perception of the company as a whole. So it's very important for brands to make sure that their customers are treated with respect and that it aligns with the company's mission and vision and what the company stands for, because inevitably that reflects a lot of what it reflects the company's beliefs and morals. And when a consumer feels that they lack beliefs and morals, they were more likely to switch. So there are various aspects of brand loyalty that can be investigated, and customer service is just one of those aspects that influence brand loyalty and a consumer's perception of a brand and their decision-making process. Yes, next week we'll talk a little bit about the consumer and the consuming culture that we live in. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and give a shout if you liked it, and I'll see you guys next week, same place. Bye.